Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm the Youth Services Consultant for the Vermont Department of Libraries, and it's April. Can you believe it? It's actually a little late this month for our video. I apologize. It's been busy, and I have a ton of books for you. So I'm going to start with the picture books, and then I will go on to middle grade books. I have a couple of narrative nonfiction, and then I have a bunch of YA. So if you're ready, let's get started. The first book I will tell you about is a good summer book. It's called See You Next Year. It is one of those quiet, sweet books that could be good for a summer story time. It's got some beautiful art in it. It's very simple. You see that? I just think that's beautiful. And it's about a girl whose family goes away every year for a week to the same place and does the same things, and she loves it. And this year she makes a new friend, and they write postcards. And at the end, she leaves before her friend, and he sends her a postcard that says, "See you next year." Nothing much happens in this story. It's very quiet, but sometimes you need that kind of story. And it's a good beach read. It reminds me of Cape Cod. So this could be a good addition to your storytime repertoire. All right, the next book I just think is adorable. It's called Marilyn's Monster. This book is just so cute. It is about a world where every child has a monster. Let me just show you a picture of this preschool classroom. Look at this. Every child has a monster. Except Marilyn, of course. And so monsters find you. They find you anywhere, and they pick you out, and then you're theirs. And so kids found their monsters at the library, and in the classroom, and on the way home from school, in the playground, wherever. But Marilyn hasn't found hers yet. Her monster hasn't come, and she's very upset by this. And of course, she has this taunting little brother who's like, "You're never going to get a monster. You're terrible," whatever else little brothers are. Anyway, she goes on an adventure to find her monster. She's like, "Forget this, I'm going." So she packs a backpack with some sandwiches and goes out in search of her monster. And I love this picture. She just looks so intense. Look at her. Anyway, she goes out and she looks everywhere. And finally, she finds her monster. And he's stuck in a tree. Look at this. It's so cute. He went looking for her and he got lost. And he's stuck. And so they find each other. And in the end, she tells her friends that she found her monster. And she says they found each other. And everyone says, "That's not the way it's supposed to work. Your monster's supposed to find you." And she said, "Well, not us. We found each other." And it's just so cute. And at the end, there they are together. She and her monster. This is really sweet. It could be a really good bedtime story. Marilyn's Monster. Highly recommend that one. All right. This book, Look, by Mack, is very clever. There are only 2 words in the entire book, look and out, and yet it tells a story. So it's about this gorilla guy. This book reminds me of Read to Tiger, if you've ever read that one. I love that story. It's very similar, only this has very limited words, obviously. So it's about this guy who's getting into trouble. So look out! So everything he does kind of ends in catastrophe. And so it's look out, and he's always getting into trouble, trying to find stuff. And basically he clears the room, and the boy tries to kick him out by saying out, because he's causing trouble. And then the little boy is trying to read, and so he sees, just like Read a Tiger, where he says, look. And then they end up reading together. So it's really cute. It could be a really sweet story time book, a really good lap-sit book. It's, like I said, very limited vocabulary, good for pointing and really telling the pictures, let the pictures tell the story. So unusual. All right, this is a hysterical, awesome book. It's called Stick and Stone. You need this story. I love it. Are you ready? This is how it goes. Stick, stone. And then it says, lonely, alone. Oh, so sad. A 0, a 1. Alone is no fun. Stick, stone, alone. along comes Pinecone. Makes fun of Stone. Won't leave him alone. Vanish, says Stick. His word does the trick. Stone whispers, gee, you stuck up for me. That's just what Sticks do. Friends do it too. So Stick and Stone no longer alone. And so it goes on like this. It's a poem. It's a little adventure about the two of them. Of course, the play on the Stick and the Stone. And then one time, let me see what happens. There's a storm, and Stick is windblown. Oh! And his friend loses him, and he's very upset. And look, he's all alone. Oh, it's so sad. It reminds me of those old Zoloft commercials with the little balls that were sad. Probably never saw them. Anyways, he looks for Stick, and he finds him stuck in the mud. And he finds him, and he's happy again. And now they are a perfect 10. I just think this is really cute and clever, and it's really, really fun. So I think it's a good one. All right, this is a little nonfiction. It's called Hippos Are Huge. It's a little scary. It's definitely more for the elementary level than for your preschoolers, depending on your kids. It's about hippos, and it's about how hippos are the most dangerous animals in the jungle, and how ferocious they are. And the kids' favorite page is going to be this one. Hold on, I'll find it for you. This one, where they fight by putting their butts together and flinging poo at each other. How could you not love that? So anyway, it's about them, and at the end they have a baby, and it's really cute. So it's all about hippos. There is an index to this, and there is additional information at the end. So if you have kids who are interested in animals, this could be a really good one. It could be a good read aloud as well. It has little snippets of information throughout the pages that are in smaller print. You can maybe see that. Nonfiction information. So either way you want to use it, it could be good for a classroom read, because you could do the story, the big exclamations, and then go over the little information bits later. But I think it's cute. All right. This one is just funny. It's called The Potato King, and it's done by potato printing, which, you know, not a lot of people do that anymore, but it could be fun to do with the kids. And it's this kind of silly story about a king who's trying to get people to eat potatoes, and they don't want to be told what to do, so he hires a bunch of a huge army to protect the potatoes. And people think that it's special because they're being guarded. And so people decide to eat potatoes, and they become this royal decree. And then at the end, the pages are stiff. It says, of course, this story might be a myth. And there's a little information here about the history of the potato, the story that it's based on. It's small. It's, you know, it's probably not right for every library, but I love that it's potato printing. And it's just, it's a cute little story. And you could pair it with a craft. Potato printing is really, really fun. And usually potatoes are soft enough to carve with spoons, so you don't have to use knives. So, could be an interesting one for you. All right, Sara Pennypacker, how much do we love her? Meet the Dullards, the extra boring edition. This book is hysterical. Your kids are going to love this book. It's definitely kind of an older writing, it's an older book, and it's about this family that is boring. And the parents want them to be boring, and then they see, look at this. There's excitement out on the road. Do you see the snail? Terrible. It's a circus outside. So they move. And when they move, they get a nosy neighbor who bakes them applesauce cake. And they ask, are there chunks in it? And she says, yes. And they say, no, chunks are too unpredictable. We can't have that. And so they've moved into this new house. And it's terribly dull. And they're very happy about it until they see one of the rooms. So they go to the store and they try to pick paint color that is suitably dull. And they see gray, and they think gray could be good, but it might remind the kids of road, and that could give them ideas. That's terrible. And then beige, and you think about beige, but that make them think of clay, and they might want to make something that's terrible. So what they do is they mix it together and they make an oatmeal color. I just find this hysterical. Anyway, then they watch the paint dry, of course. And meanwhile, the kids are sneaking out of the house. And so what happens is that the kids are outside playing, and the parents catch them and are like, oh, this is terrible. We have to move back. Look at this pragmatic moving container. So they move back to their original dollhouse, and they see a sign that the circus is coming. And they go to sleep, and they think they're perfectly safe. But alas, their kids are running off to the circus. So this is a hilarious story. It could be good for your elementary school kids, your older story times. It could be a good classroom read. It's hilarious. Good stuff. All right. This is a good bedtime story. Everybody sleeps, but not Fred. I love these stories about kids who don't sleep. My little brother never slept. That's what he told everybody. He never slept. So I think this is hysterical. So this is a story about Fred. So basically the whole story is about different places where people are going to sleep and resting, but not Fred. Fred is off doing something else. In this one, he has important jumping to do, and then the chickens are asleep, but Fred's not asleep. He's breaking the world shouting record. Anyway, he goes through, and there's all kinds of scenarios. He's hunting Sasquatch and having all these adventures, and then at the very end, they read some books, and children are now sleeping, but not Fred. Fred? Where is Fred? He's missing. And of course, he's asleep. And he's sleeping on a sheet, which I think is hysterical. So anyway, this is a good bedtime story. I think it's really cute, and it could be a good addition to your I don't want to sleep type stories. It's good. It's just fun poetry. This is Margarita Engle. This is a gorgeous book. It's called Drum Girl Dream, and it's based on a true story about a girl. I'm trying to remember where she lives. She lives in Cuba, and she's Chinese African Cuban, and she wants to drum. But in 1932, when this story really took place, girls were not allowed to drum. And so this story is based on her. The art is gorgeous. Look at this art. Isn't it fabulous? It reminds me of the summer reading a couple years ago, One World, Many Stories. So it's a poem, and it's all about her, and she really loves music, and she wants to drum. And her dad says, no, girls are not allowed to drum. Until one day he says, okay. She has a drum, and she drums by herself, and one day he says, okay, we'll find you a teacher and see if you're good enough. And she is, of course, and her teacher is fabulous. And she practices, look at her. And eventually she joins a group, and she drums with them in public. So it's a good story. It's awesome art. It can make a really, really good story. And it's based on a true story, which is really awesome. All right. I gotta speed up. I got so many to go through. This one is fun. It's called By Mouse and Frog, and it's a story of two friends who are trying to tell a story together, which is not going so well. So one day, Mouse wants to write a story, and Mouse is kind of traditional. He starts his story with a blank piece of paper, and he says, one day I set the table. You'll probably see where this is going. And then Frog jumps in and makes a mess, and adds color and craziness. And it's basically about how these two animals are their friends. They're trying to tell a story, and Mouse is trying to tell this orderly, simple story, and Frog keeps jumping in and adding craziness, and eventually the story goes out of control. And then Frog tries to tell his own story, and it's all like a mess. Look at this. Until Mouse can't stand it anymore. And so Mouse decides he wants to tell a story by himself, but when he tells his story, it's boring. And so he's so sad because Frog is like, oh, what? Look at this. He's so sad. So anyway, in the end, they decide to tell the story together. It's very cute. It's all teamwork, and there you go. This is the story they end up with. This would be a wonderful read aloud. It could also be fun talking to kids about how you write stories and the importance of the structure and the fantasy. All right, moving along. This one's a little more melancholy, but I think it could be good, especially if you have kids who are dealing with moving or with getting rid of things that they really love. It's called Yard Sales by Eve Bunting, which, you know, we've come to love her. She can do no wrong. And this story is about a little girl who's having a yard sale, and it's terrifying her because everyone is buying all her stuff. But her parents are telling her that they're moving to a much smaller place. She knows it has something to do with money, but she doesn't really understand. And she's been talking to her friends and telling them she doesn't understand why they're going. People are buying all her things, and she's very sad about it. Until one time, when some little old lady tries to make a joke and says, "Oh, are you for sale too?" And she bursts into tears. And she goes to her parents, "You would never sell me, would you?" No, of course not. And so it's a very sweet story. It's, you know, a little cheesy, but look, all cute. And then they move into their house, and, you know, it's just right for them. Maybe not their stuff, but that's not really what matters. So anyway, it could be good for families who are going through some hard times, who are downsizing, or just, you know, letting go of the past. It could be a helpful story for that kind of issue in a child's life. All right, last but not least in our picture book section for this month is Mesmerized. I predict that this is going to be on the short list for Red Clover. It is fantastic, and it's Candlewick, of course. This is a story about how Ben Franklin solved a mystery and baffled all of France. So this is a story about the scientific method and how Ben Franklin used it to dethrone this Dr. Mesmer, which I think is hysterical because he's Dr. Mesmer, and of course he mesmerizes, and he's a magician, and he supposedly uses forces to make people act certain ways and smell certain things and do certain things. But of course, Ben Franklin, being a scientist, he says, no, that's not actually happening. And what happens is he uses the scientific method. I'm going to lay out the story. Ben knew better. And he uses the scientific method to prove that Dr. Mesmer is actually a fraud. And so he does all these experiments and finally, you know, proves. And then at the end, they talk about the placebo effect, which I think is really interesting. It's something kids often talk about, but it's about the placebo effect. And it goes on to talk a little bit about how the placebo effect is something that doctors don't understand even today. So in the end of the story, it brings it right to the present, and it talks about science and the scientific method. This could be a wonderful book for school librarians when you're talking about science and the scientific method and history and the importance of experimenting and finding the truth. Plus, it's a little history of Ben Franklin and how some mysteries can be solved with science. So this is a really, really wonderful book. Okay. That's all I have for picture books. Are you ready for middle grade? Okay, let's see what we have here. The first book here I picked up because the cover is hysterical. The Dragon's Guide to the Care and Feeding of Humans. How could you pass that up? It's fabulous. So this book got good reviews, not stellar, and I think it's pretty much what you see is what you get. It's about a curmudgeonly old dragon who adopts a 10-year-old pet human and has to figure out how to get along with her. And I think her name is Winnie. Winnie, the 10-year-old. And she likes to draw, and some of her drawings come alive, which could add to the adventure. But it's simple, it's short. It could be a fun summer read for some of your readers. All right, the next one. This one looks intriguing. It's very, very heavy. It's called The Lost Track of Time. And it has kind of an Alice in Wonderland and Phantom Tollbooth kind of feel to it. It has art in it. It's all in purple, which I think is fabulous. Of course I do, because I love purple. Let's see here. And it's a story about a girl who wants to be a writer, but her mom schedules every minute of every day, and one day she finds herself with some free time, and she falls into it. And she ends up in a realm of possibilities, and it used to be run by King Moodle. This game is Great Moodler, excuse me. And the Great Moodler is a big fan of moodling, which means doing nothing. And it's been taken over by the evil Kronos and his clockworkers who are trying to set everyone to a schedule. And so this girl, her name is Penelope, makes friends with these characters and tries to overthrow the evil Kronos and get back to moodling. It looks like a fun book. It got good reviews, again, not stellar, but I think this could be really appealing to some of your kids if you have kids who like these kinds of stories. Kind of magical realism ish story. It could be a good family read too. It's got that big, heavy, lap reading kind of feel to it. All right, next, an author you might recognize, Alice Hoffman. This is her first middle grade book. It's called Nightbird. It is a fantasy, of course. This book did not get terrific reviews, but sometimes you have to buy books just because you have fans of the author. It's about a girl named Twig, and her family's been cursed, and her brother has been given these horrible wings, and because of that, everyone thinks he's a monster. And so it's about breaking the curse of her family. The reviews say she tackles kind of a lot in this book, and it might be a little bit too much for such a slim novel, but it's Alice Hoffman, so you know it's going to be beautifully written. All right, next, I really like this book. It looks like a good one. Blackbird Fly. It's got a wonderful cover, doesn't it? And it's about a girl named Apple who's just moved to Louisiana from the Philippines. And she's moved because her father's passed away. And the only thing she has from him is a tape of some old Beatles recordings. And so now she's in Louisiana. She's an outsider. Her mom doesn't really speak English. She eats Filipino food. She doesn't fit in. And she really, really wants to learn the guitar so that she can play some of these Beatles songs. But her mom doesn't see the point. And so she befriends a music teacher who gives her a guitar. She starts to learn. It's kind of a coming of into your own, coming of age story. Nothing we haven't heard before, but it could be a nice twist. It looks like a solid read, and it got great reviews. All right, next, The Trap. This looks intriguing. It has a shiny, shiny cover. Kind of interesting. This takes place in 1963 in rural Iowa, and it's about a kid. His best friend's older brother is a bully, and he disappears one night. And so they're out trying to find him, and in a riverbed they find this mysterious book that's about subtle travel, and it's kind of Madeline L'Engle-esque time travel, and so they go and they have adventures. And of course, it's set in 1963 in a very rural town, so these kids are off and their parents aren't worrying about them. So it looks like a nice adventure, kind of a quiet adventure. It could be good for some of your, middle grade readers. All right, my last middle grade book, Spider Ring. It looks scarier than I think it's meant to be because it's for grades 4 to 6. And this story, don't read it if you're afraid of spiders. You can fast forward this if you'd like. It's about a girl. Her name is Maria, and her grandfather dies and leaves her a spider ring. And she finds out that the spider, she can communicate and control spiders and make them do things for her. But other people want that power too. And there's a creature named Black Widow who is no good and really, really wants that ring and to get more power. So it looks a little creepy, but for young readers, that could be a nice adventure story for the summer. All right, that's all I have for middle grade readers. I have 2 narrative nonfiction, and then I'll move on to YA. All right, narrative nonfiction. Chocolate. This is a book about the history and secrets of chocolate, and it's written for middle and high school readers, which is fun. It has a chocolate timeline. It even has a chocolate molecule right here in the front. It's about myths, the dark side, medicine, everything to do with chocolate, how it's produced. There are some wonderful pictures in the middle of the book about chocolate. And there's a timeline at the end. It starts with the ancient Maya. And it goes right up to present day. It is written in prose. So it could be read like a novel, but it also could be read in chapters. It could be good if you are looking for more narrative nonfiction, if you have kids who really, really like nonfiction, kids who really just like chocolate. If you want to do a program on it, it could be a good read. All right, one more nonfiction for you. So coming up in 2018 is the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. So there's a lot of Great War books coming out, and this is one of them. It's written for like a middle school, high school level. It's called The Great War, Stories Inspired by Items from the First World War. It's heavy. It has a lot of pictures in it, and it's written in short story form. And one of the things that I think your kids are really going to love about this book is that when they look at the chapters, they're going to see authors that they recognize. People like David Almond, John Boyne, Marcus Sedgwick, and Tanya Lee Stone. They're gonna like that, and they can read one chapter, they can read the whole book, and it's all about mostly the British in their place in World War I. Some of it's in poetry and verse, most of it's in prose, and it's got some great art in it too. So if you're looking to beef up your World War I section in your library, this could be good. This could be good for school libraries, or it could be good if you just have avid nonfiction readers in your library. All right, you ready for YA? I am. Okay, see what we got here. I'm going to start with the funny ones. We could all use a bit of funny in our lives, right? All right, so I don't know about you, but I'm always looking for funny YA books. They're not easy to find. So we're going to start with this one. The Prom Goer's Interstellar Excursion. This looks hysterically funny. It's about a boy. His name is Bennett, and he has a huge crush on a girl named Sophie, and he asks her to the prom, and it's a miracle because she says yes. And then, of course, she's abducted by aliens. So he wants his date back, and he also doesn't want to be arrested for kidnapping. So he enlists the help of some extraterrestrial band, a band that is hanging out at the local burger joint, and they try to help find her and bring her back in time for prom. It looks hysterically funny. It got great reviews. I think it's a good addition to your spring-summer collection for your teens. Something light and funny. This book's called Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda. It's not a new story, but it has a modern twist that I think your kids will like. Simon is gay and he's in the closet. He has a relationship online with another boy. It's all secret. And one day someone steals his phone and takes a screenshot of it and uses it to blackmail him. So now he has to decide whether he wants to stay in the closet or do what this kid says, and whether he wants to risk the identity of the other boy. Like I said, it's not a new story, but it's all about social media. It's about Tumblr, cell phones, and this whole bullying idea and identity could be really interesting, and I think it could be appealing to your teens. All right, next, The Unlikely Hero of Room 13B. This is one of those problem therapy type books. It's about a kid his name is Adam, and he has OCD, and he's in a treatment program for it. This does not take this lightly at all. It's a very, very debilitating disease, and he's going through intense therapy. He's in a therapy group, and he kind of thinks that the group is pretty crazy until Robin walks in. And when he meets Robin, he knows he wants to be here, he wants to save her, and he fancies himself a hero, like Batman and Robin. It sounds hilarious, but these are two teens who are dealing with a very difficult illness, and I don't think the story is going to sugarcoat it. It got really good reviews, and if you have kids who like these kind of problem novels, I think this could be a good choice. Of course, there are a lot of novels like this out there, so if you feel like you have too many, you don't have to buy this one. Totally up to you. All right, how about some scary? Look at this cover. The Dead I Know. Doesn't that look creepy? Ugh. This was originally published in Australia. It's about a kid named Erin, and he has these horrible nightmares, and he sleepwalks, which is a problem because he's living with his grandmother who has dementia, and he's sometimes waking up not in the right place. Anyway, he gets an apprenticeship with a funeral director, so now he's around death all the time, and he starts to remember some of these dreams, and he realizes that they're not dreams, they're repressed memories. Something terrible happened to this kid. This looks terrifying and scary, and it's short. I think it's only like 200 pages, and I need to read it. It's going to scare the pants off of me. So if you have kids who really like the horror genre, this is it. You need this one. Another scary one, Cemetery Boys, is Heather Brewer. She wrote Vladimir Todd, and this is her first standalone novel. This book looks creepy. It is about a boy named Stephen, and he and his dad have to put his mom in a mental institution, and now they have no money, so they've moved in with his grandmother, who's a very bitter old lady in this very, very tiny town, and this town is weird. There's all this bizarre mythology, and the kids hang out in the cemetery, and he starts to think that maybe there's something more sinister going on, and it's true, and he starts digging this up, and it looks really scary. So if you have kids who really like Heather Brewer, kids who really like the genre, could be a good choice for you. 2 more. Can you handle it? All right. Susan Juby has a new one, Truth Commission. This one looks interesting. It's about a girl named Normandy, and her older sister has written a graphic novel. Unfortunately, it's based on her family, and it's not that flattering. And then she went off to college, and the family was kind of relieved. But now she's back, and she's talking about a new book. And so Normandy is not sure how she feels about that. Meanwhile, Normandy is she's into the truth. She's very anti-gossip, and she and her friends have started this anti-gossip group and really looking for the truth. And unfortunately, as she digs for the truth, she starts to find some things out about her family that she might not have wanted to know. This looks like an interesting kind of realistic problem novel. Teens, lots of drama. Could be good. And last but not least, one of my all-time favorite YA novelists, Pete Hoffman, has a new one. This one's creepy, different kind of creepy. This is about a cult, which always creeps me out. This is about a kid, his name is Jacob, and he lives in somewhere called Nod, N-O-D-D, which I started reading that and I thought, is this fantasy? No, it's not. It's creepier. It's this place in Montana. It's 12 square miles, and it's surrounded by an 8-foot chain link fence. And Nod is this place where Jacob and his family live, and they're not allowed to leave. And so this group of people never leave, and they believe that everything outside the fence is evil, and it's called the truth. And they're not allowed to question. Of course, someone new comes in, which is unusual, and they start questioning things, and so Jacob starts questioning things, and that is not acceptable. This looks really creepy. There are other books written on this topic. I will definitely read this one. I can't wait because I love Pete Hoffman. It's going to be good. But if you have enough of these books, you may not need this. But this kind of genre tends to go over really well if you have high school readers. So could be a good one. All right. Is that enough? I'm out of breath, so let's get going. All right. So that's all I have for April. Here's my contact information. Please let me know if you need anything. Questions, comments, concerns, things that you think I should be reading. I would love to hear from you. And I will be back in May with more. Have a great week.